Hey everybody, welcome to Arcane Wednesday for January 6, 2021. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. Alright, today we are going to be looking at a spell with a really interesting history. I was actually a little bit surprised, mainly because I've not really used Counterspell that much as a player in D&D, and um, I've been running 5e games for so long, I had forgotten how drastically this had changed over the editions. But Counterspell has a really curious and interesting history within the game, and we're going to take a look at that today on Arcane Wednesday. All right. So what we are going to do first is we are going to go back to 3rd edition, which is where Counterspell actually entered the game. Now, you might think that something that is as seemingly basic as countering a spell would have been in the game a lot longer, but really hasn't. Um, so now you'll notice here that we're not looking at a single spell description, we're looking at a concept description. Counter spells. It's possible to cast any spell as a counterspell. By doing so, you are using the spell's energy to disrupt the casting of the same spell by another character. Counterspelling works even if one spell is divine and the other is arcane. Okay, because sometimes there's spells that appear on the spell list of both um, clerics or druids and wizards or sorcerers or whatever. So you can, if it's the same spell, doesn't matter if it's another arcane caster or a divine caster, if you have that spell on your spell list, you can try to counter it. You select an opponent as the target of the counterspell. Do this by choosing the ready action, and you elect to wait to complete your action until your opponent tries to cast a spell. You can still move your speed since ready is a standard action. If the target of your counterspell tries to cast a spell, make a spellcraft check, and this check is a free action. If the check succeeds, you correctly identify the opponent's spell and can attempt to counter it. If the check fails, you can't do either of these things. So to complete the action, you must then cast the correct spell. As a general rule, a spell can only counter itself. For example, Fireball is the counterspell effective for another fireball, but not to any other spell. And then counterspelling metamagic. Metamagic feats are not taken into account when determining whether the spell can be counted. For example, a normal fireball can counter a maximized fireball. That is, a fireball that's been enhanced by the metamagic feat maximize spell. And then there's specific exceptions. Some spells specifically counter each other, especially when they have diametrically opposed effects. For example, a haste will counter a slow spell, as well as another haste spell, and you can counter reduce person with enlarge person. And dispel magic as counterspell, you can use dispel magic to counterspell another spellcaster, and you don't need to identify the spell he or she is casting. However, dispel magic doesn't always work as a counterspell, and then there are specific exceptions to that. So that's the way counterspells used to work. But now in D&D 5e, there's actually a specific spell called Counterspell, and it is a reaction time, and it's instantaneous. You attempt to interrupt a creature in the process of casting a spell. If the creature is casting a spell of 3rd level or lower, its spell fails and has no effect. If it is casting a spell of 4th level or higher, make an ability check using your spell casting ability. DC equals 10 plus the spell's level. So it's a DC of 14 for a 4th level spell, all the way up to a DC of 19 for a 9th level spell. On a success, the creature spell fails and has no effect. Now, if you put Counterspell into a higher slot, then it automatically counters any spell of that slot where you put it or lower, and the same DC formula applies for something higher. All right. And then the caveat is on a reaction. You have to take that reaction when you see a creature within 60 feet of you casting a spell, because the range of Counterspell is only 60 feet. If you see that guy all the way across the battlefield starting to cast a fireball, you're more than 60 feet away. Sorry. All you can do is say, duck! And hope that everybody gets out of the way. All right, well, that is going to do it for this edition of Arcane Wednesday. If you like what we're doing here on the channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like and share the videos, click that post notification bell. Look in the description for all of the ways to follow the social media platforms and find out about the Patreon and all the other kind of good stuff that we have going on here. And please join us over on Twitch for the live streams Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We will talk to you later. Take care, and good night, everybody.